Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video I'll be going over how to use data stores to save things within our game. And with that out of the way, I hope you enjoyed the video. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is actually head over here to the server script service and create a script. Once we've done that, it's going to open the code editor, of course, and we're going to delete the first line so we can get straight into our creating our first variable to define our actual service. So I'm going to create this variable, name it DataStoreService, and it's going to equal our game get service and then DataStoreService. What this is going to do is get the DataStoreService, of course. After that, we're going to create another variable to actually create the data store. So I'm just going to name this data store, and it will equal our DataStoreService, or we'll reference it, and then we're going to use get data store, this one here. Now, there's many different types of data stores, such as another one is called a get ordered data store, and what an ordered data store is something you use for leaderboards, for example. Now in this tutorial, I'll only be going over normal data stores, and in our example, it's actually going to be saving players' data. So to do that, we're just going to use the normal data store, which is get data store, and then once we've done that, inside our brackets, we can actually name our data store. Now with like variables, I do recommend naming your data store to do with what you're actually saving. So I'm just going to name it player data. Now please note, if you do change this value or this string inside the brackets, it will wipe all previous data until you change or revert it back to what it was. So please keep that in mind. So don't code or release your game with a data store and then change it later on, because all your players will lose their data. With that out of the way, let's get into the next thing. I'm going to go down 2 lines and then you write game, the players added, game.players, and then player added. Player added is a fun event, that fires when a player joins the game. Connect function, and inside the brackets we're going to write player. Now what this does, if you don't know, it's whenever a player joins, it will run any code inside here, like from between 5 and 9. Hopefully that makes sense. It also gets the player, so if I did print player.name, it will print 50 alpha when I join the game, or any other player that joins the game. Once we do that, I'm going to use a pico. Now what a pico does is whatever code you run inside it, it will catch the error if it does errors, meaning we can prevent data loss if it does happen, because sometimes Roblox data stores do tend to mess up a bit, so we do want to prevent that. So I'm going to create a pico, local success, data equals pico function. Now we'll explain this in a second. Now inside this, we can run our code, which will catch errors if it does error. All we're going to do is return data store, and then we're going to get async and player the user ID. Now what we're doing here is getting our data store and then getting data from that player. So let's say they had 50 coins when they last left. We're going to get that 50 coins from their player or their user ID. Now you might be wondering, why don't I just do player or player.name like this? It's because somebody can change their username and we don't want them to lose data when they change their username, so we're going to use their user ID instead. Once we're going to do that, is we're going to use an if statement to check if it actually works. So check success. If it was success, then we continue. If not, I do recommend kicking the game, or you could use some other method to try attempting to get the data again. In this example, I'm just going to keep it simple and kick the player. Of course, you can give it a reason like error loading data, but I'm not going to bother writing that out today. Once we've done that, if it does work, then we're going to check if they actually have data. So we can do if data, then if they do have data, so if they previously have data, if they've played before, then we can load their data in. If not, we're going to create new data for them. Let me give it a better example. For example, a player joins the game. If they've played before and they have coins, we want to load in their coins. Let's say they had 10,000 coins when they last played. We want to give them those 10,000 coins. If they've never played before, that's the code that's going to run here. We're going to give them default values for their data. Once we're going to do that, I'm actually going to just, for this example, use leader stats. So I'm going to create a function to create our leader stats. Local create leader stats equals function, and we're going to pass the player in there and their data. So once we do that, I'll go down here, I'll call our function, pass the player and their data. Now this will run, this data is if they actually do have data from the last time they played. If it's the first time they're playing, we actually want to create their data. So I'm going to use a table here. Now it doesn't have to be a table, you can pretty much save anything, but most of the time if you're saving, you want to be saving multiple things in one data store because it makes it more simple. So I'm just going to make a table, and I'm going to do coins equals 100. That can be the default coins, and when they join I want them to be level, let's say 0, like that. And then we can pass that into our create leader stats function like this. Once we've done that, we can actually create their leader stats. I won't be going into that this tutorial because this tutorial is about saving data, not creating leader stats. But if I did print data.coins, it will just print the value here, their default coins, or if they have played before, it will print how many coins they had when the last time they played. Hopefully that makes sense. That will do that. Once we do that, we actually want to save that data. So we'll do game.players.play removing connect function. Oops, bench. Connect function player. Now what this does is pretty much the opposite of player added. This code is going to fire when a player removes. Same as up here, we actually get the player as well. So to save the data, we need to create a table because we're actually using a table to save our data. So I'll just do local data equals this. And what we can actually do to make this more convenient is just copy, paste the data. Now, these values here is where we're actually going to be getting our data to save from. So if we were using leader stats, I'm just going to get their data from the leader stats. So I'll just do player leader stats .coins.value. And these values that you set them to is, like I said earlier, is just wherever you're actually saving their data to. Like I said in this example, we're just going to be using leader stats. So I can just copy this line of code here and change it to level. And then we can actually save their data, which is really simple. Just do data store, set async. So not get async like up here, we're setting their data now. So we just set async, their player.user ID. Now this here has to be the same as up here, otherwise it won't work. And once again, we are saving it to their user ID, not their name, and then the data we're saving. And that's pretty much it for this tutorial. This should work, and I hope you enjoyed it. See y'all.